Masechet Peah, Perek Bet, Mishnah Vav. This Mishnah is actually a fascinating Mishnah because it gives us a very small glimpse into the history of the time, which is really pretty unusual. So it's a very unusual case. Last Mishnah we talked about the notion of is one gorin versus two granot, i.e. the notion of if I have a field, but I have two species of the same crop in the same field, white wheat and black wheat. And is that considered one field or two fields for the purposes of Peah, i.e. do I have to leave one Peah or two Peah, each one for different strains of the same grain. And today the Mishnah is going to continue and tell a story based on what we learned yesterday, which was, it depends on when you harvest them. If you harvest them together, the Mishnah said, then it's considered one field. That's gorin echad. But shtei granot, if you harvest them at two different times into two different storehouses, then it's considered two separate fields, and each one is required to do its own peah. So the Mishnah continues and tells a story about this, which is actually quite fascinating. Says the Mishnah, Ma'aseh shezara Rabbi Shimon isha mitzvah lifnei Rabban Gamliel. Okay, so there's a story. Shezara Rabbi Shimon isha mitzvah. Rabbi Shimon isha mitzvah planted two types of grain in the same field, i.e. not two types of grain or two types of the same species in one field. Okay, lifnei Rabban Gamliel. And then he brought his question to Rabban Gamliel. This Rabban Gamliel, as we're going to see, is Rabban Gamliel Hazaken. Okay, the eldest Rabban Gamliel, you can see here is in Wikipedia. He's called Rabban Gamliel Hazaken. He lived about 100 years before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, let me make sure I got that right. That's right. 100 years, Kufshana Lifnei Beit, about 100 years before the destruction of the not the Beit Rishon, Beit Sheni, the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, so therefore, Rabban Gamliel had his question. He was the Nasi, he was the Rosh Sanhedrin. Va'alu lishkat hagazit v'sha'alu. So they went up to the Lishkat Gazit. The Lishkat Gazit was this chamber of the Sanhedrin near the Beit HaMikdash. So they had a question. So they went to ask the Chachamim. Amar Nachum Lavlar. Lavlar is a sofer. Nachum the scribe. But back then the scribe was also the lawyer who knew how to write contracts and things like that. Nachum Lavlar. Mukubalani mi Rabbi Mishaya. Mi Yasha. Shekibel mi Abba. Shekibel min hazugot. Shekiblu min haniviyim. Halacha lemoshe misinai. Mesorah etzadeu shnei minei chitim, im asan goren echad noten peah achat, shtei granot noten shtein peot. So let's translate. Said Nachum Alavla, Nachum the scribe, El mukubal mi Rabbi Meyasha. I have a Kabbalah. I have a tradition from Rabbi Meyasha. Shekibel me Abba was a tradition from his father. Shekibel min zugot. Zugot are the pairs, as we'll soon see. Shekiblu, they had a tradition, a Kabbalah. Min hanviim halacha lemoshe misinai. This obviously, if you think about this, it takes you right back to the first Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Okay, Moshe kibel. This idea of Kabbalah, Torah misinai. This is Moshe halacha lemoshe misinai. He is Mesorah liYoshua. Yoshua gave it to the Zekanim, gave it to Nevi'im. Nevi'im Mesorah la'anshei Knesset Hagdolah. So we're skipping the Zekanim, Nevi'im, and they're Anshei Knesset Hagdolah. Okay, remember he talked about Shekiblu Nevi'im we saw. And the Zugot. Who are the Zugot? When you go down in the pairs in Mishnayot and Masechet Avot, okay, after the first few Mishnayot, you have Yoshua ben Pracha and Nita Ayabeli Kiblo Mehen. They're the beginning of the Zugot, the pairs of the Rabbanim, and after that Nita Ayabeli says what he says. Then Yoshua ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach. Those are the Zugot. So the Zugot are considered essential elements of the Mesorah. So this is a beautiful idea. I mean, we almost never see this actually in action. That Nachum Alavar said, I have it from my Rebbe, who got it from his father, who had from the Zugot, who learned from the Nevi'im, and then halacha l'Moshe miSinai. It's a very important idea. Halacha l'Moshe miSinai is halacha that Moshe learned on Sinai. This is the din. So whenever you have an answer of halacha l'Moshe miSinai, it's not up for debate. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu in Har Sinai. If it's halacha l'Moshe miSinai, that's the law. That's what you're stuck with. That's what it is. And what's the din in this case? It's what we said. When he plants his field, two types of wheat. If you harvested them in one harvest, you give one peah. Two harvests, you give two peot. What's so fascinating here, I mean, it sort of gives you a sense of longing in a sense. That on the one hand, they had a question, and they were able to take it to the Lishkat HaGazit it's so pressing now that if we have a question, they took it to Lishkat HaGazit. Someone knew the answer from Moshe Rabbeinu. Said, hey, you have a question, who you go to. There's this sort of immediacy, this sort of sense of connection to the Mesorah, which is so important for us to have. And it's just sitting here about some arcane question about one Peah or two Peah, but you have this such beautiful, powerful connection to the idea of Mesorah that's sort of tucked nicely into this beautiful Mishnah. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact me, rspolter@gmail.com. I want to dedicate this learning, as I often do, to the memory of my father, of Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.